Do you guys want to hear some facts about youth violence?
Yes, please.
Okay. Did you know that bullying happens once every 7 minutes on the playground and once every 25 minutes in the classroom? And most youth violence goes unreported. Youth ages 7 to 13 are at the highest risk of experiencing bullying violence. Young women between the ages of 11 to 19 are the highest risk group for sexual assault. 1 out of every 3 males in Canada will have an experience that meets the legal definition of sexual assault sometime in their lifetime. 61% of all sexual assault victims are children or youth under the age of 18. And in BC, 35% of girls and 16% of boys between grades 7 and 12 report that they have been physically and or sexually abused. So, that's pretty intense.
Yeah, those are some crazy statistics. Statistics.
So, most of this violence and bullying is come about through a power imbalance. And so when I say the word power, what kind of words come to mind? Anyone? Anger, control, dominance, bullying, physical size and strength, money, age.
Authority, manipulation, intimidation, leadership.
And the people in these positions of power, they could be parents, police, teachers, principals, friends, popular kids, governments, youth, and social workers. Sometimes this power can be used as a good thing, and we shouldn't say that all people in a position of power misuse it. They usually use their power for a good thing, such as protecting someone or preventing something from happening. Usually it goes around safety. But it also can be misused, and say teenagers with peer pressure into binge drinking or into shoplifting. There are some negative effects that come from this power imbalance, and that's where we see the bullying. So, to move on, we're going to, I don't know, possibly.
We're going to talk about stereotypes, maybe?
Sure, let's talk about stereotypes.
Stereotypes.
Do it.
One thing that, I don't know, I think lots of people don't know is that, like, sexual assault, it doesn't just happen to girls. It happens to guys, too, and I don't know, I think there are lots of guys out there that think they're invincible because, like, no girl can harm them or something, but it's not true.
And guys can be assaulted by guys, and girls can be assaulted by girls, too.
For sure. We want to be inclusive.
So do we want to clear up some myths about gender stereotypes?
I'm ready.
Okay, so I have one myth here.
Mythbusters.
Woohoo! Girls often give mixed messages and then decide later that they didn't want to have sex and charge the guy with sexual assault.
Are you asking me true or false? Or are you just saying this is a myth?
This is a myth.
This is a myth.
This is a myth. Why is it a myth?
I think my experience is that most girls do know whether they want to be involved sexually with someone or not, and I think they do give out pretty clear messages that they're only willing to go so far. And I think it's a bit of myth. It's part of the myth and the stereotype, I think, of young women that they just can't make up their minds or they can't say what they mean, and it's used as kind of an excuse by a guy to use his power over her to go farther than she wants to.
And I think if somebody at any point, if that's happening, you know, whether the kiss was consensual and everything's fine, at any point when they're like, what was the myth again? It said,
girls often give mixed messages when they decide.
So as soon as the mixed message part comes and it's not like full on interest, that's when your respected partner, hopefully, cross your fingers, would stop and ask you, you know, how everything's going, or, in a perfect world, in an idealistic world.
Yeah, that's exactly how it should be. It's about communication and being clear. And if you're not clear, if your partner wants to go that far, then stopping it. exactly like you said, Stacey.
And talking about it too, and making it okay to use your words, and we're gonna get there, and I'm sure. But you can just nail it in the head for the listeners that only get to listen to it from work to home, but just 2 blocks away. And if you're listening, that this is what we're trying to talk about. Using your word is very important too. This is what I think is most important, is to ask your partner or ask whoever, if it's okay, and if they like this, or if at any point they're kind of wishy-washy, and you're feeling that it's not 100%, then always just ask your partner how they're feeling, right? Mm-hmm. And it makes things that much more intimate and more special by knowing that you're heard and knowing that you're respected.
Do we want to tackle another one?
Let's tackle them.
Do we want to... Okay. So, when guys get aroused to a certain point, they just can't stop without hurting themselves.
That one's been around. That one's been around for a long time. You're right. What was that you said? Blue balls, right?
They can't stop without hurting themselves. What I might say might be explicit for some listeners. They can always help themselves. You don't need to help them.
Is for.
If they're suffering from something that is called blue balls that a lot of people complain of, that is not something that somebody else has to do for them. If they're really concerned, they can do it themselves. Sorry, viewer discretions may be advised.
All right.
But you do not need to do that for somebody.
No.
Let it be known.
So
they may say otherwise, but they're lying.
That is true. So, some girls ask for it by wearing slutty clothes or being too flirty.
Well, it's I don't know. I guess it's an opinion thing, but I don't know. I know lots of girls that, especially in the summer, they'll wear short skirts and tank tops and stuff. But then if some guy looks at them, they're kind of like, "Hey, will you stand in front of me? I don't want him looking at me." It's weird. They're not asking for it. It's just how they are. It's their personality. Or depending on the weather. Weather exists, people.
And nobody deserves to be assaulted just for what they're wearing. Doesn't matter what they're wearing. You wouldn't just go up and punch somebody because they were wearing some type of clothing. So why should, just because someone's wearing a short skirt or a low-cut top, suddenly deserve to be sexually assaulted?
Respect people's boundaries too. Would you want to be stared at? Treat other people how you want to be treated. And if you're wearing for whatever, even if it's not about clothing, but especially during clothing, where the conversation with that, you don't just gawk at somebody and make them feel uncomfortable. It's like assaulting with your eyes. Nobody likes that. Maybe your partner, if they're, well, who knows? But no, creepy dudes. No creepy people. Stop staring. Can I stare at you? You can say that. Is it okay if I stare at you? And obviously you're going to say no. That's a great way. You can use your words.
Use your words.
That's probably a good time though to
talk
about sexual harassment too, because you were talking about somebody staring at you in a sexual manner all the time, or making sexual comments in a repeated kind of fashion, and that becomes sexual harassment, which is against the law. People should know that they have a right to have that kind of behavior towards them stopped and get help with that.
Okay, so one last myth before a music break, and it's, since guys are always into having sex, it's impossible for them to be sexually assaulted. No.
That is a big myth. And I wish we had some men in the audience to talk about it.
And I think when we talk about gender stereotypes, that's one of the stereotypes that makes it hard for young men to come forward and say they've been sexually assaulted. Oh, a little crash of CDs in the corner.
Oh boy.
It's a good time to announce that callers, if there are any men callers out there and you want to speak up for your brotherhood, to let us know that boys can be assaulted, or any stories that you have, or of friends, you can always use the friend. The phone number is 352-3706.
And if you're off the lake, just slap a 1250 in front of that.
That's right. We are waiting to hear your calls, because your opinion matters. And don't forget, this is an anonymous phone call, so anything you share with us, you don't even have to use your name.
Okay, so we're going to music as of now.